All right, y'all, let's hop into this quote of the day. This is a quote from Napoleon Hill from the book, I almost said Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Think and Grow Rich is actually the name of the book. Let's see, which is funny. Some people will say you care more about thinking and growing rich than you do about going to church. Heathen. All right, I guess. I mean, same people tell me, but whatever. Let's read this quote. It says, "Nothing is more pitiful than the misunderstanding of the power of the brain." Interesting quote. It says, "Nothing is more pitiful than the misunderstanding of the power of the brain." Listen. The thing that's interesting about Think and Grow Rich, which has always been one of those like slimy, gross books that are like the self-help books that are like, yo, do these steps and you'll become a billionaire, which I've always kind of like looked at and thought like this is foul. But this book actually is interesting as I always say young black man, and then I realized that I'm not that young anymore. But as a black man in America, it's interesting because my biggest weakness that I constantly have to bring to God is feeling unworthy. And this book talks so much about the mentality keeping you in the position, either mentally, I don't know what I was getting ready to say, either mentally or physically, that you've been in, so you don't change your circumstance. So people who are on welfare feel like that's all they are worthy of, and it's a free check, which hits up this government stimulus, which we're not going to talk about. But it's interesting though, like there are a lot of people who feel like they are not worthy to live a different life, and then they make it seem like that's what God would want for them. And I can't say what God would want for you, but I personally know what God has called me into. And because of that, I know that I have to change the mindset that the world wants me to live in. I'm gonna turn this mic over here a little bit. I know that that's different than the mindset that the world had set me up for. So for a lot of people, and I won't even just say like black and brown people, like this is not a race issue at all. Like there are a lot of people out there who don't feel worthy, who grew up in a situation like, and I had great parents. We had great community around us, but I think as a whole, society told me that I have a place and that I need to stay in my place. And I think society says that to poor people, society says that to minorities, society says that to women, society says that to middle class kids who are just different, who don't grow up as the ideal football player who then goes to his father's business college or even goes to college. Like if you don't come out with that mindset of you are worthy, or you are just worthy of God, you know what I'm saying, of like God's blessings, or like the blessing of Jesus returning you to communication with God the Father, you will go through your life feeling not worthy of his forgiveness. You will go through life not feeling worthy of the favor that he has given you through his spirit. Like I feel like that is a reality in a lot of people's lives. And it's interesting that reading this book, which I've always known about this book, but seeing it as slimy in the past, it's interesting that that's now what I'll say God is using to help me recognize that I have like this really, really bad inferiority complex. I'm gonna keep it real. I've always known I've had an inferiority complex. What I didn't know though is that that's what's keeping me from being the person that God has called me to be. Interesting note. So if you ever get a chance, check out Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Apparently he was a Christian. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny any of that. We'll be right back. Uncle Tyler in the morning.